So my wife and I, being this is a conversation about children, my wife and I have come this far, 15 hours from New York City, had to go from Miami Beach to New York City first, and we are both here for the longest period of our lives since we've been married without our children. Yay, thank you very much. Thank you. Secret number one, escape. Yeah. So, we're going to talk about, we're just going to go through, talk about various things regarding some of the important things about raising children. And I'm going to focus on what I see are some of the most important keys. And I think some of them will surprise you, some of them you'll understand, but will be very practical as far as what we're trying to get across. And I purposely named the title of the talk about making kids happy. And I did that on purpose because that's a bit of a question in and of itself. I don't know South African families, but I know in America we have this disease of wanting to make our children so happy that we don't really know what to do when they're sad. So the first question is your goal completely to make your child happy? Is that the primary goal? What is that primary goal? And we're going to be discussing that. And I do, toward the end, want to talk about one significant issue, which is when Torah and happiness, when that doesn't always go together. How does that work as far as being a parent? Whenever talking about being a parent, I got to think about my favorite story. It's a story about a young mother named Jessica, and she's in a grocery store, and she's pushing her 2-year-old kid in a cart, and the kid obviously is having a fit, Been there, done that, right? So, but every time the kid's having a fit, like this mother looks at her daughter and she says, "Please, Jessica, don't have a fit. Don't freak out. Relax. We'll be out of here in 15 minutes." Well, they're down the next aisle and, the kid's pulling stuff off the shelves. So, "Jessica, please, 10 minutes. Don't freak out. We'll be out of here." Well, there's this older gentleman who's, kind of following her at this point. He's so taken with this mother's, calm and her comfort with this child. And by the third time, when she's saying to her daughter, "Jessica, please, don't freak out. 5 minutes and we'll be out of here," he comes over and he says, "I'm sorry for eavesdropping. I have to tell you how refreshing it is, how wonderful it is to see how you deal with your daughter, Jessica. I mean, Jessica is really lucky to have you as her mom." At which point she stops him and says, "You see, I don't think you quite understand. You see, I'm Jessica." So, we know it's not easy. I got 5 kids, thank God, so I'm sure people here have less, have more. If you're here and you're a grandparent and you've raised your children, or so you think, because they never seem to leave, still, even as a grandparent, I do want to tell you, you play a very vital role in your grandchild's life, so listen up. Number one, what's one of the first things that I think, one of the first keys, and I think this will be a surprise to you, although most Jews probably not, because we love to eat, and that is the dinner hour. It's very interesting that, I come at this by looking at the practicality. So we can talk about communication, which we're going to, but if you don't have the time to communicate, it really doesn't matter how great a communicator you are with your child. The family dinner is something that research has told us a great deal about. A University of Minnesota study showed that kids who have 4 to 5 family dinners a week that 42% of those children have a less likely chance to drink alcohol, 59% are less likely to smoke cigarettes, and 66% are less likely to try marijuana. Columbia research said that over 80% of teens prefer dinner with the family rather than eating alone. Over 80%, and this is American kids, okay? Half thought the dinner time was the best time to talk with the parents about something, and 40% were more likely to get A's and B's in school. One study showed that girls who eat 3 to 4 times a week cut the risk of extreme weight control behaviors in half. So, what's going on? So what is it about the dinner hour? I mean, what is it? Why is that so significant? And the simple reason, I think we understand this, anybody who keeps Shabbos or keeps Shabbos traditions, right? You already have at least 2 meals toward your 4 or 5 a week. We understand that dinner is more than just, sitting around quickly and passing around food. It is a place where we get together and congregate. Now, food happens to be in many cultures besides Judaism, happens to be crucial to the culture, and there's a good reason for it. It's very nurturing. So as much as you might order in, as much as you might have someone else cook dinner, the idea for children that a parent or parents are involved in food, it is a very nurturing feeling. I don't know if many of us have those, when we think back, sometimes we think back to those times in the kitchen. The Jewish kitchen is really the hub. Everybody seems to congregate and move in there because everybody's got to eat. And if you're Jews, you really got to eat very much, quickly, and a lot. So that dinner hour really represents a time when we can get together and communicate. Now, here's something a couple quick things. With my kids, and I learned this from somewhere else, I don't know where, we'd go around the table once in a while, right? Otherwise, it's too corny. And we would say, we would pick one person a night, and we'd say, okay, we're going to go around, everybody say something you like about that person. And everybody have to go around that night and say something that they loved about Esther. And then the next night it would be Mikey and Pacey and Danny, whatever. And we would include my wife and myself. And this is one thing, before I go on, I want to mention to you. Too often we are so servicing to our children that we think that we're not supposed to share anything or they're not supposed to find out about us. It's a bad idea. So when you do that little thing, let's each night go through and talk about somebody everything we love about that person. Mom and dad should be one each of the nights. Include yourself. When you sit down and you talk to your kid and you talk about school, so we have this idea that the dinner hour is all about the kids. It's all about what happened to you in school, what do you have to do for homework, who spit at who, what's going on. But instead, in addition, you, as a parent, you want to download to your child, obviously child-appropriate measures, something about you. What's going on in your day? Your child should learn from you what your frustrations are in the day. What were your highs and lows? What's going on in your home, in your business, in your work? That's good stuff. That's how they learn about life. That's how they find that you are more than just a person serving them, but you're somebody who is a real person, and they need to connect to you as an adult, and you need to demand that respect. They need to respect you. That's a healthy thing. We'll get more into it. Let's go to number 2. We're on a time schedule. Justin, you're the Justin? Yeah. So Justin, they tell me that, he's my, raise your hand, Justin. Justin's right in front of me, and they tell me he's going to give me the time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever the heck it is. So I asked Justin for his watch. So good luck to you. Okay. Number two is listening. Now, some of you, I'm sure many of you women, many of you mothers out there have watched the Oprah show. I'm sure many of you men have and are unwilling to admit to it. But this was a major thing. I was on the Oprah show, I was on 11 times, and it was a great blessing. And half the times was about children. Sometimes children's divorce, children, different issues with children. And the reason that I was on as much was because I would go before every show, and I'd spend many hours counseling children. And what she came to appreciate was how I was able to get children to talk so much without me talking a whole lot. So what was I doing? I was doing the simplest of things that many of you might already do, and if you don't, let me help you with it. One of our biggest problems in communication as parents is that we always want to rescue our children. We always want our children to feel good. So if a child actually doesn't feel good, typically the first things out of our mouths is some rescuing statement. If your 8-year-old comes home and he or she says, I was picked last for the team, right? So your typical parent response is, oh, don't worry about it. You're so much better than them in other things. Things are terrific. But this is my favorite. My favorite is, the kids made fun of me. Every Jewish parent says the same thing. They're just jealous of you. I don't even know what sense that makes, but we always say the same thing. But anyway, the point is that when a child says, or is giving you the idea that they're sad, they're hurt, they're worried, for you to say to them, don't be worried, it does not help, Okay? Think about it, and we'll talk a lot about this in the next couple talks. If you went to your spouse and you said, I'm really worried about my mother's health, he said, don't worry about her. I'm not worried about her. You know, right? That doesn't feel good. I have the feeling. You have to help me process the feeling. And you as a parent, it's crucial to help you teach your children how to process feelings. You have to teach them how to deal with anxiety, how to deal with sadness. Every child, by the time they hit 4 or 5, it's common to have death anxiety. You need to teach them how to deal with that. I know you haven't figured it out yourself. But you need how to deal with that, whether it is to divert their attention, think about something else, talk about it, express to them how you manage with it. But you can't just say, don't worry about it and dismiss it. So when your child mentions anything to you, the thing I ask you to start doing, and if it doesn't come naturally, practice it, and it will be a little awkward at first, is always respond back with a feeling that you heard them say. Sense the feeling and give a verbal point to the feeling and the heart of the message. So if your 8-year-old says, I was picked last for the, what's it called? Not Quidditch. For the soccer team, all right? I can remember soccer. I was picked last for the soccer team. So you want to say back to him, it can be, it's kind of sad, or I can understand it's kind of embarrassing to be picked last. Say that and then shut up. That's the best thing you can do. Because what you just did was that you helped your child know that you really understand what he said. And I want to tell you that we heal and we process with somebody understanding us. Somebody who loves us, understands us. That is what makes us feel good. God forbid if somebody has a terminal illness and they talk to somebody else for an hour about their terminal illness. They walk away, they feel better. Feel better. They're not dying any you're still nothing's changed, but they feel better because we have human beings, the soul within us, there's something magical in communication. So you don't have to solve your child's problem, surely not right away. What you first have to do is let your child understand and feel that you know what they're feeling. Typically, once you do that, they download a whole lot more. So if you say to them, it's kind of embarrassing to, be picked last. A lot of times, then you'll get more of the story. So the kid might say, yeah, it's the 3rd time. And you didn't even know that. Had you said, oh, don't worry, you'll do better next time. Let's go outside and practice soccer so you'll be picked. You would never even get the next part of the story. You would never get the next part of the story that, and it was also my best friend who was there. Or there was a girl who made fun of me, or, whatever. You'll get a lot more if you just slow down the conversation and just respond. Now, another practical, specific tidbit that it's important is that when you use the feeling, it's sad, you're mad, you're nervous, use the word kinda or sort of before. It's a little hard to say to a kid, I understand you're sad, or I understand it was embarrassing. That's a little much to take on. So if you say, I understand it was kind of embarrassing, you're kind of sad, that helps the child be able to take it on. Now, once you have exhausted understanding and letting your child know that you're listening to them, then by all means, you can go next to reassuring them. You can go next to problem solving with them. But I really hope that you can ask them to problem solve. So in other words, instead of saying, well, we'll go out there and we'll practice and you'll become better, you could say to them, well, what do you think, do you have any ideas about what you can do to change? What can you do? And he or she might come up with much better ideas than you. But the point is we want to teach our children resolution skills. So the only answer is not necessarily to get better at soccer. There might be a better answer. He might need to role play how to behave under those circumstances. He might need to learn that he's a complete nerd, he's great at chess, and he should not be trying to get into a soccer game in the first place. I don't know. But we need resolution, and you need to be able to help him do that. So the communication and the resolution are 2 of the most important skills you're going to give your child when dealing with the world in practical measure. Number 3, we're going to go through a few of these quicker than just do a time, but just give you an idea. Number 3, I want to know each one of you. I want you to write down before you leave here today, whether you're with your spouse or not, what are the top 2 values you want to impart to your children? Now that's going to be very hard because you've got 50 values. But the problem is that life does not allow us to focus on 50 values. And I find that too many parents, because they don't know where to focus, what ends up happening is that life dictates to them what they want to focus. The school dictates. The community dictates. And that's fine if you agree and that's what you really want. But you have to feel what is important to our family. You know, is love important? How does that get translated? Is education, is Torah learning important? Is business acumen important? What is important? When I have those extra moments to sit, where do I want to focus on with my child? I'll give you an example. With my 5 kids, I had various primary values. Some of them I knew were going to happen naturally. Torah learning, for example. Now, if Torah learning is your value, then you got to make that your value. That means you got to be learning Torah around your kids. You got to be teaching them. You got to be going to Minyan. You have to show that. Torah value can't be intense Torah study. If that's going to be your value and you as a father and mother are not going to be modeling that for your kids, then that's not going to work as far as your primary value. They might still get that, but you have to think, what is the values that I want to give them? If honesty is your value, right, then what am I showing them through my behavior and through my actions? In my family, I have 5 kids. We actually homeschooled 4 out of 5. Florida is a very easy state for homeschooling as far as the legalities. And we homeschooled for various reasons. I can't go into the entire story. But the primary thing was my primary value for my children, and I don't say it has to be yours, was I wanted my children to be mensches. And I truly felt that that's not something that I can teach them later in life. That's something that I needed to imbue in them as they were children. And I focused on getting them to places, to study, to experiences that taught them how to be mensches. And that became my primary value. Now, of course, I understand that primary value includes a lot of specifics. So I'm not saying, I'm talking, but in your mind as a parent, you have to have a sense of your own family direction. What is that sense of direction? And if you don't have that, then everybody's just kind of muddling along, and everybody's just kind of running like a hamster in the wheel, and you don't have that direction for your family. And your children need that from you. You have a lot to give them, and they really need to learn that from you, and that's where you can be of great help to them. The next one is something that I feel, again, does not get across much to children in our society. Too often I think we say to our children, your job is to do well in school. You just do well in school, don't worry about anything else. Now, school is a great value, it has to be. But the problem with that is I feel that we're not empowering children. I feel too many of our children feel that my life doesn't start, my ability to affect the world, my ability to affect another human being begins, after I finish college, after I get a degree, somewhere when I'm in my 20s, then I can become, a person. That's not correct. The fact is a child at any age can do things that make tremendous difference in the lives of other people. We should teach our children. We want to empower them. I want my kids to feel strong and capable. I want them to know that they can smile at somebody and make a difference in their day. I want them to know that they can bake a cake for the next door neighbor who's sick and bring it over and do something. I want to know that they can babysit for my neighbor for free who doesn't have the money, or their children are sick. We're trying to help them. I want them to know that they can go to the old age home. Let me tell you something. I don't know if you have, I suppose you have old age homes here. It is a wonderful place for children. Wonderful. In America, it's the reason it's good in America. Actually, America's gotten very, very careful. So to visit like children in the cancer ward, there has to be a lot of background check. They're very concerned. To visit people in the hospital sometimes. Sadly, the old age home, right? There's not nearly as much caring about these old people. So anybody they'll let me in. They'll let anybody in. So. But the idea that your children, when they go to an old age home, those older people, the light in their faces, they love them. And believe you me, my children have had experiences with two individuals who have since passed, where two individual children will tell you that they made such an impact in their lives. I have a son, Michael, who's now 20 years old, and he met Frida when he was 16 and spent the last couple of years with her, her life. And, there were days where I was thinking, it sounds like Frida's, more important than his parents. I'm telling you, it was really something. He spoke at her funeral. They were that close. And it all came because, we went there. And by the way, if you go to old age homes, whatever, I know this is, I never would have thought of this. I used to bring flowers. My mother, you want to hear this Freudian slip? My wife told me, again, that's the next talk coming up. My wife told me, go to the donut store and bring donuts, And I brought these donuts, and I don't know if these people are diabetic or not, but they were grabbing the donuts. They love these donuts, I'm telling you. You're going to love it. So being able to get them into experiences where they're helping other people, where they're helping underprivileged people, and not the old thing where we're going to buy presents and we're going to donate them somewhere. Take some of your money and buy something, and something that is interactive. There are soup kitchens. There are places where you can feed homeless. There are things you can do. If there are homeless people in your area, or when I've gone on bike rides with my kids. We used to take a knapsack. Miami Beach has a lot of homeless. They probably migrate there from New York because it's warm weather. I don't know how they get there. It's amazing. But nonetheless, we have a lot of homeless people, sadly. So we would put sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in a knapsack. And we would go for a bike ride. Anytime we saw a homeless person, instead of giving them a buck or whatever, we'd give them a sandwich. It was simple, wasn't that? It's not like it was a big exotic thing. It was just a nice thing to do. It was just an extra thought. Look for those things. Teach your children to look for those things. There's a story that when Abraham wanted to find the proper mate for his son Yitzchak, he sent his servant. And he sent his servant Eliezer, you know the story, and he goes with camels and he makes this deal with God. He says, listen, when I see a girl who wants to give me water and wants to give my camels water, that's going to be the girl. And the Torah says before he finished, bam, this little girl, she could be 3 years old. They even say could be a child prodigy, right? She was a 3-year-old, and she comes over and offers him water and offers his camels water. And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? What is going on here? Eliezer, by the way, let's put this in place. This guy's a big, strapping guy. The Torah tells us he fought a war with Abraham. He decimated kings. This guy's a tough guy, And then they tell us that he had kfitzas haderech, which means that it took him much less time to travel there. So it's not like he's particularly schwitzing. It's not like he's bent over. He looks, young and strapping. Those are early days when the Jews looked young and strapping. I don't know what happened to us. Do you notice, I've got to tell you, I noticed that, we're all we're all Jewish. We're all all right, let somebody else do something for us, And then somehow you just cross the border to Israel, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm here. I will cut off your fingers unless you tell me what to do. I don't know what happened to those people. It's fantastic. Okay, so he goes ahead and he sees this little girl. Now let me tell you something. This little girl is doing something nice. This guy doesn't need water. What he should have said is, I'm going to go to town, and when I see a girl who's helping a nice old lady across the street, that's the one I want for my master's son. That's kindness. What kindness is it to go get water for this guy and for his camels? The answer is that he wanted somebody who was going to have to do kindness no matter what. What happened at that moment was Rivka, there wasn't an old lady who could cross over the road. So most people, we sit around, and if something comes up, we see an old person, we'll go ahead, we'll get up, we'll help them. But besides that, forget about it. Rivka was different. She had to be in constant work in kindness. She had to live her life through kindness. So when she saw this man, even though he could have done it himself, she wanted to do for somebody else. That was his plan. His plan was, if somebody looks at me, a capable guy, God bless. hope he agrees with this Dvar Torah. If somebody wants to come to me, a young, strapping man, and wants to give me water, that means that he can't live without kindness. That's what is in our DNA. There's a Gemara, not that you should do this, but there's a Gemara that says that if you meet a person and they are truly mean and not kind, you can question whether they're Jewish or not. It does not make sense for a Jewish person not to be nice. So we need to imbue kindness within our children. We have to set up for them to seek out, like Rivka, to look, where can I find in my day somebody who needs something? It can be the simplest of things. It doesn't have to be the major big things. We get too focused on the big things. I'm having a bar bas mitzvah. It's a big thing in America with to do a big mitzvah project. Like now I'll give to the foster children for my bar mitzvah or my bas mitzvah. Nice thing to do. I love it. But we want to be doing it on a regular basis. Let's talk about sometimes in families and marriages, I feel that we're going to have a good marriage, in spite of our children. But the fact is that I think there are things that we can do together. I told you, I'm married, I have 5 kids, what can I tell you? Married 25 years, by the way, thank God. We made 25 years last year. My wife is back at the hotel room. That's how we've made it 25. So, I think there are ways that we can live life together. So here are some ideas, some quick ideas that you should note and think about. And these are things that we can do with our children as a family, as couples. And I think it really makes our marriage stronger as well. It makes us feel closer as a family. Most families, most of us, especially when we have little kids, I think we do what I call the tag team approach parenting. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've been here for hours, I gave them the bath, whatever, tag, you're it. Go ahead and do the rest. You know what I'm saying? I mean, So we want to try to figure out as many things that we can do together that really experiences is great for the kids and it's great for the parents. So for example, number one, and these are for people who are married. I understand if you're divorced or thinking of marriage, it might not apply directly, but things to think about. Number one, compliment your spouse in front of your kids. That is so important. We don't do it enough. Kids love to see their parents in love, all right? I understand if you fight a little bit, you bicker, it happens, but we want to make sure that they feel surrounded by love. Compliment your kids. Compliment your spouse in front of the kids, Teach them also by doing that to compliment, So if isn't it great that, the great dinner that mom made, the mom was out working all day today, dad was out working all day today, isn't it terrific? He thinks of us, et cetera, et cetera. These are important things to do. You take your kids on a vacation, you get your kids to compliment your spouse, that they afforded the vacation, whichever one worked on it, whichever one planned for it. If you show appreciation to your spouse, it makes the kids feel loved and it teaches them to do the same. Next, cook together. As you can tell, I'm a foodie, so therefore, cooking together is a great way to be together as a family. Also, you must remember that children will always talk the most deepest philosophical ideas and questions when there's downtime. Now, nowadays with electronics, right, there's not much downtime, and we need to try to develop the downtime. Obviously, Shabbos is one of those great, still sticking with it. I'm worried that one day there will be an iPhone that you can work on Shabbos. There's going to be some way that you can think about something that's going to mark something there, and there's going to be enough steps that we can use our iPhone. But for now, we're protected, and we still have that period of time. But being able to cook together, your kid, when they're going to sleep, when you have them in the car, you're taking a drive, you're having a catch with a ball, that's the time where they ask about life. That's the time they ask about you, those down times. You can't really sit and look your kids squarely in the eyes and say to your 10-year-old, so how's life going, What's going on? Yeah. That's not a typical way that they're going to open up. So it's the downtime that really works. Plant a garden together. Planting is wonderful for children at every age. And it's important to be able to get them there to do that. Cuddle together. I'm going to go through them fast because apparently Justin found a watch. Cuddle together. Cuddling is nice. Physical connection and touching is very important. So make sure you find the time to do that together. Find activities that everyone likes. You have great safaris here. I'll talk about my experience. I was on earlier this week with my wife. It was fantastic. Find experiences everybody likes. I can't stand it when parents, we have Disney World. You know, that's everything I see in the world. When I go to Europe, I always walk around and say, yeah, this looks like Epcot Center in Disney. Yeah, you know, I went on safari. Yeah, this looks like the Great Safari Ride. This is great. Yeah, you know. That's how all Americans see life, through Disney World. But, you know, some people can't stand Disney World. So I have to hear parents say, oh, I hate Disney World, but I got to go for my kids, you know, put a bullet through my head. You know, I mean, you know, do things, find things that all of you like to do together. If you, the parents, like it, then your kids will like it too. Just don't do things that you can't stand, but your kids will like. I mean, there might be some rite of passage in your culture that's necessary, but other than that, try to do it that you'll all do it together. Laugh together. As you can tell, I think it's very important to have humor and be a child again, and be youthful with your children, you know? I mean, I think that those of us, when we have younger children, I know we're more tired, but we should have a youthful way about us because we should be connected into their kinds of activities, even though you will hear child songs over in your head and won't be able to get them out of your head for many years, nonetheless. Okay, I only have a few minutes left, so I have various things, but I'm going to focus on one particular thing. I think we need to teach our children to respect us. I think this is crucial. I don't think there should be a lot of back talk. I think some of the age-old Jewish principles are absolutely necessary. There's an age-old Jewish principle, tradition, maybe it's halacha, that you're not allowed to, I think it is halacha, that you're not allowed to disagree with your parents, surely in public. And we've taught this to my children, and it doesn't go easy. They forget, you know, but it's important. Nothing wrong with children knowing that when I'm in a conversation, or I'm talking, or I'm at a table, and I say something wrong. You know, I said, oh, we went on safari last month, and it was 4 months ago, you know, or whatever. You know, you don't correct me. Children don't correct parents in public. In private, we have a good relationship. You want to remind me? No, Mom, don't you remember that was 4 months ago? You know, hello? So that's fine. You know, I'm not suggesting we should be standoffish. We give, I think nowadays, right, we're very much more in touch with the loving part. So we want to make sure that we don't lose the respect part. Not sitting in your seat, age-old Jewish tradition. It's important. There should be an assigned seat for dad and for mom, I believe, at your dining room table. And doesn't mean your child can never sit there, but it means they have to ask permission if they're going to sit there. And don't give them permission most of the time, you know? Unless there's some compelling reason. It's just a nice thing, nothing wrong and everything right psychologically for them to know and understand that, yes, we have to have a separate place, and that's mom and dad's place. You know, if you need a glass of water, yeah, ask your child. Tell them, please get me a glass of water. And if they need a glass of water, let them get up and get themselves a glass of water. If you're in the kitchen already, it's okay. So help me, I was on a beach vacation with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, God bless them, and their oldest child, who was maybe 5, was in the ocean. I promise you, I am not embellishing that. And she was screaming that she wanted potato chips. And my brother-in-law, okay, who is a bigger strapping guy than me, is running all the way up the beach to the hotel room to go get her potato chips, okay? Now, she's a lovely girl. She turned out great regardless. But nonetheless, it was close. Okay. 2 final things. Remind me to tell you what Fred Rogers told me. Do any of you remember Mr. Rogers? Did it ever make it here, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? No. Okay. Well, that would be totally meaningless to you then. Okay, only one thing left. There are times in the Torah world that conflicts with happiness. So I had a very dear friend of me call me months ago. And without getting into too many details, his son who was, who was divorced and was a very religious young man, had fallen in love with a Gentile woman. And they were a very close family. And my friend said to me when he said to his son, this is totally inappropriate, totally not right. And my friend explained to me that his son had been depressed, been kind of sad for years. I don't know if it was clinically depressed, but he was down for many years after the divorce. That his son said to him, "Dad, I don't understand. I don't understand. All you've told me my whole life is you want me to be happy. I'm finally happy. How can you ask me to not continue my relationship with this girl?" And my friend asked me to help him and write a draft of a letter that possibly could, get across to the message that he wanted to get. I'm going to read you that letter that I wrote to him. And, hopefully for the purpose of understanding how I try to approach life. Of course, I'm not going to say his real name, it's here. Of course, Larry will say, "Of course, Larry, I want to see you happy. At the same time, I know that we are tested and we struggle in this world. I don't know why Hashem would put us all in this specific position. But I know that for thousands of years, we as individuals have had to make very hard choices in order to survive and live up to our eternal spirituality. We can never forget what each of us means to God's plan. We can never forget how much people before us, your grandparents and your grandparents before them, had to make similar, if not harder, choices in order to find their way and fulfill their life mission. Please remember that happiness in this world is fleeting, and although I want you to have it, I know I must believe and trust God that His desire for you must be of a higher, more important source of happiness for you throughout your many stages of life. Please do not be short-sighted. Please do not judge God and the other good people who love Him and represent Him favorably and genuinely for those who claim to be His representatives and yet fail miserably to carry on His spirituality and love. True strength and the peace comes from feeling lost and finding your way in a path that honors God, not one that runs from Him and continues to detour and be lost. God has given you those choices for you to learn from them, and now you must make the proper choice. The free will that He gives you must be used to honor Him. Family has always been identified through unconditional love, so I understand how complicated it is for you to hear these words. But the literal existence of this family and every other Jewish family has been predicated upon the very basic rule that you are sadly choosing to break. As a father, I have always wished for all my children's simpleness and finding peace and happiness with no struggle. But as every parent learns, we cannot protect her children. We cannot protect our children from all struggle, and somehow the human condition is such that we must face our struggles, and it allows us to grow in a way that we could never have imagined. I will continue to hope and pray that you can face the struggle and make the choice that will help you honor your heritage, your family, your neshama, and Hashem. The point is that we must help our children understand that they are an important link in a long chain. And later today at the closing plenary, I'll discuss this from a research basis. We have to teach our children to love God and to love Him so much that we trust in His principles, even when those principles conflict with what is our simple sense of happiness, that we have to believe that on a deeper level we've been given a plan, and this ultimately is the most important thing. Hopefully, and it should almost always be, that keeping God's laws and traditions can be a part of happiness as well. But if it does not, we must imbue into our children that the top issue, number one, how do we reflect God? What is our purpose in life? And this I'm not saying from a Torah perspective only. I'm saying it from a psychological perspective. Because children in this world must have a sense of direction and a sense of belief to feel healthy and to be less stressed. That's what we need to do for our children. Before ending, I just want to mention to you that my next couple of talks are going to be about relationship and marriage. And I really look forward, I hope all of you come to that. If you can come as a couple, even better. If you just want to send a representative, I understand. But when your wife comes, because I know the guys, if it's going to be one representative, it ain't going to be the guy. When she leaves my next couple talks, she can say anything she wants about what I said, and you don't have any ability to disagree. So just keep that in mind. I want to mention two things upon ending. One is that some of my books are available, I think, for order at the Kollel bookshop. They're somewhere around. In the back are my daughter's bat mitzvah book. If you know any girl having a bat mitzvah, it's fabulous. You'll just go and look at it. She interviewed older people and teaches girls about Shabbos and all kinds of great stuff in Jewish heroism as females. And then I also have my new initiative, which I've just come out with, which is my DVD series. And it's about relationships. And there's a few different products. The main one is an 11 DVD set with 280-page workbook that at any stage you are, whether you're newly married or you're way out there, whether you're having issues, not having issues, it's just great, great stuff. So whether you buy it or not, it's not really the point. I just want you to become familiar with it. We are offering it, it's my team and my partners, we are offering it at a significant discount for you today because of shipping and stuff. So if you want to get it today, you can order it, and that would be best. And I want to say something about this. I'm going to say it at every talk. You know, sometimes people don't like to go look at a self-help thing because people are going to think like, oh, you know, I don't want anybody to think that I'm having trouble or something, so I don't want them to think it's me or whatever. And but I have learned, unfortunately, the people who need it the most don't go get this help. So if you're looking, it means you probably don't need it the most, and we can all look at you and say, we are going to learn that those people who have great marriages, they're the ones who are always focusing on learning something new. So I look forward to spending more time along with you in the rest of the day. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.